Boy crumples note into his pocket. Mom finds it and calls 911. Tiffany Evans sighed as she dropped her keys on the kitchen counter. Another 12-hour shift at the hospital had left her exhausted. Her feet ached and her shoulders felt heavy. But she still had one more thing to do before she could collapse onto the couch: laundry. Jake, her 7-year-old son, had soccer practice earlier, and his clothes were covered in grass stains and mud. She smiled tiredly as she pulled his tiny jeans from the laundry basket. Even after the longest days, the little reminders of him, the dirt, the crumpled homework in his backpack, the way he left his shoes in the middle of the floor, made everything worth it. She turned the jeans inside out, checking the pockets out of habit. Jake had a tendency to leave treasures in them: rocks, candy wrappers, sometimes even spare change. Her fingers brushed against something soft and crumpled. Paper. Probably another drawing, she thought, pulling it out. But when she unfolded it, her heart stuttered. The handwriting was messy, the letters uneven, like a child had written it in a hurry. The words made her blood run cold. "Help me. The bad man hurts us when no one is looking. Be careful or he'll hurt Mom too. L." Tiffany's breath caught in her throat. This wasn't Jake's writing. Her hands trembled as she read it again, her mind racing. Who was L? A classmate? A friend? And why was this note in her son's pocket? "Jake," she called, her voice sharper than she meant it to be. Footsteps pattered down the hallway, and Jake appeared in the doorway, his hair messy from playing. "Yeah, Mom?" She held up the note, trying to keep her voice steady. "Sweetie, where did this come from?" Jake blinked at it, then shrugged. "I don't know. Did you write it?" He shook his head. "That's not my writing." Tiffany knelt in front of him, her pulse pounding in her ears. "Did someone give this to you?" Jake thought for a second, then nodded. "Oh yeah, at recess. A girl put it in my hand when we were on the swings." "A girl? Who?" He shrugged again. "I don't know her name. She's quiet. She just said, 'Hide this, don't tell anyone,' and ran away." Tiffany's stomach twisted. This wasn't a game. This wasn't a joke. Someone, a child, was asking for help. And that note had ended up in her son's hands. Without another word, she grabbed her phone and dialed the school. The secretary answered, cheerful and unhurried. "Hi, this is Tiffany Evans, Jake's mom. I need to know if there's a little girl in his class whose name starts with L. Maybe Lauren? Leah?" The secretary hesitated. "I can't give out student information, but this is important." Tiffany interrupted, her voice tight. "Please." After a pause, the woman sighed. "There's a Lily Watson in first grade, but she hasn't been in school the last few days." Tiffany's fingers tightened around the phone. "Help me," the note had said. And now Lily was missing. She hung up, her hands shaking. She had to call the police. Tiffany's hands shook as she dialed 911. The phone rang once, twice. 911, what's your emergency?" A calm voice answered. Tiffany's words tumbled out fast. I found a note in my son's pocket. A little girl wrote it. She's in trouble. She said a bad man hurts her and her mom. Her name is Lily Watson. She hasn't been in school." The operator cut in gently. "Ma'am, slow down. I need you to breathe. What's your name?" "Tiffany Evans. My son is 7. He said Lily gave him the note at school." "Okay, Tiffany. I'm sending officers to your house right now. Stay on the line with me." Tiffany clutched the note tighter, her heart pounding. She glanced at Jake, who was sitting on the couch, watching cartoons, completely unaware of the storm brewing around him. Thank God. Within minutes, a police car pulled up outside. 2 officers stepped out, but it was the woman behind them who caught Tiffany's eye, tall with sharp, dark eyes and a no-nonsense stance. She flashed a badge. "Mrs. Evans? I'm Detective Rachel Davis." Tiffany rushed to the door, holding out the crumpled note. "Please, you have to help her. This little girl." Detective Davis took the note, her expression hardening as she read it. "You said her name is Lily Watson?" Tiffany nodded. "The school said she hasn't been in class for days." Davis turned to one of the officers. "Run a check on Rebecca Watson, Lily's mother. Look for any domestic calls at their address." The officer nodded and stepped away to radio in. Tiffany hugged herself. "You think someone hurt them?" Davis didn't sugarcoat it. "Notes like this don't come from nowhere. If a kid is scared enough to write it, we take it seriously." The officer returned quickly, his face grim. "Rebecca Watson has a restraining order against an ex-husband, Mark Tolbert. Assault charges, but he got out on parole 6 months ago. Neighbors reported him lurking around their street last week." Tiffany's stomach dropped. Oh my God. Davis's jaw tightened. "We're doing a welfare check now." She turned to Tiffany. "Where's your son?" "In the living room. He doesn't know." "Good. Keep him close." Davis's voice softened just a fraction. "You did the right thing calling us." Tiffany nodded, but fear clawed at her chest. If this man was dangerous enough to make a little girl write a secret note, what if he had been watching Jake too? As the detective headed for her car, Tiffany called after her, "Please find them." Davis didn't look back. "We will." The police car sped off, sirens silent but lights flashing. Tiffany closed the door, her legs weak. Jake peeked around the corner. "Mom? Why were the police here?" Tiffany forced a smile. "Just checking on something, baby." But inside, her mind raced. What if we're already too late? Detective Davis's patrol car screeched to a stop in front of the Watson home, followed by 2 more squad cars. The small, pale yellow house looked quiet. Too quiet. No lights on, no movement behind the curtains. The front porch swing swayed slightly in the wind, like someone had just left it. Davis didn't wait. She strode up the walkway, her hand resting on her holstered gun, just in case. The other officers fanned out around the house, checking windows and doors. She knocked hard. Silence. A neighbor peeked out from next door, an older woman with wide eyes. "They ain't been home in days," she called. "I saw Mark hanging around last week. Gave me the creeps." Davis's stomach tightened. Mark, the ex-husband. She tried the doorknob, unlocked. Gun drawn now, she pushed the door open. "Police, anyone here?" Nothing. The living room was a mess. A lamp lay shattered on the floor. A coffee table was overturned. And in the corner, a small pink backpack, covered in cartoon unicorns, abandoned near the couch. Lily's. Davis's radio crackled. "Detective, back door's unlocked. No sign of forced entry, but the kitchen chair's knocked over. Looks like a struggle." She clenched her jaw. He took them. Back at the station, the tech team was already pulling up traffic cameras near the Watson home. Davis leaned over the shoulder of a young officer, scanning through footage. "There," she snapped, pointing at the screen. The video showed a tall, broad-shouldered man, Mark, dragging a woman by the arm toward a beat-up blue sedan. Rebecca's face was blurred in the footage, but her body language screamed fear. A tiny figure, Lily, was being half-pushed, half-carried into the back seat. The timestamp, 3 days ago. Davis slammed her fist on the desk. "Get an Amber Alert out now. That's a 2008 Honda Civic license plate." She squinted. Charlie, Foxtrot, 382. Mark Tolbert is armed and dangerous. Assume hostages. The room erupted into action. Phones rang. Officers shouted updates. An alert buzzed on phones across the state. Missing child. Lily Watson, 7 years old. Last seen with mother, Rebecca Watson. Suspect, Mark Tolbert. Approach with caution. At home, Tiffany's phone buzzed with the alert. Her hands trembled as she read it. They're really gone. She looked at Jake, curled up on the couch, completely unaware of the nightmare unfolding. Her throat tightened. What if Jake had been outside playing when Mark came around? What if he had tried to talk to him? What if... Her phone rang. Detective Davis. Tiffany answered in a rush. Did you find them? Not yet, Davis said, her voice tense. But we have a lead. Mark's got a hunting cabin up near Pine Ridge. We're heading there now. Tiffany clutched the phone like a lifeline. Please bring them home. A pause, then quieter. We will. The call ended. Tiffany sank onto the floor, her back against the couch, and pulled Jake into her arms. He squirmed, giggling. Mom, you're squishing me. She buried her face in his hair, breathing in the scent of shampoo and little boy sweat. So close. Danger had been so close. And out there somewhere, a little girl just like Jake was waiting for help. Tiffany closed her eyes and prayed. The police convoy rolled silently through the dark forest, headlights off, guided only by moonlight and GPS. Detective Davis sat in the lead car, her fingers tight around the radio. The cabin was just ahead, half a mile up the dirt road. All right, listen up, she said to the team. Mark Tolbert is dangerous. He's got a history of violence, and he's got hostages. We do this clean and fast. Through the trees, a dim light glowed from the cabin's single window. As they got closer, shouting could be heard, a man's slurred, angry voice. You think you can leave me, huh? After everything I did for you? Davis's blood ran cold. That was Mark, and he sounded drunk. Inside the cabin, Rebecca Watson huddled in the corner, her face swollen and bloody. Lily was pressed against her, shaking like a leaf. I'm sorry, baby, Rebecca whispered, stroking her daughter's hair. Mommy's so sorry. Mark paced in front of them, a bottle of whiskey in one hand. You made me do this, he spat. You and that kid, always whining. Lily whimpered, burying her face in her mother's shirt. Before she could ask, a voice boomed from outside. Mark Tolbert, this is the police. Come out with your hands up. Outside, Davis stood behind a patrol car, megaphone in hand. Tactical officers surrounded the cabin, guns drawn. For a long second, nothing happened. Then, the door flew open. Mark staggered out, wild-eyed. You got no right, he screamed. She's mine. That kid's mine. Davis kept her voice steady. Mark, let them go. This doesn't have to get worse. He laughed, a harsh, broken sound. Worse? I'll show you worse. He turned like he was going back inside, toward Rebecca and Lily. That's when Davis gave the signal. Go, go, go. Tactical officers rushed forward. Mark swung at the first one, but the cop dodged and tackled him to the ground. Get off me! They're mine! Mark howled as handcuffs clicked around his wrists. Inside, Rebecca sobbed as officers rushed in. Medic! We need a medic now! Someone shouted. A female officer knelt beside Rebecca. You're safe now. We've got you. Lily peeked out from her mother's arms. The officer smiled gently. Hey there, Lily. You're so brave. The little girl didn't speak, but she reached out one small hand and clutched the officer's sleeve. Outside, Mark was still screaming as police shoved him into a squad car. Davis watched him go, her face hard. Then she turned back to the cabin. Rebecca was being loaded into an ambulance, Lily clinging to her. The detective walked over and touched Rebecca's shoulder. "You're both safe now," she said quietly. Rebecca's tears fell freely. "Thank you," she whispered. Davis just nodded. Then she pulled out her phone and dialed Tiffany. It was time to bring this nightmare to an end. Tiffany's phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, making her jump. She grabbed it so fast she nearly dropped it. Detective Davis. "Hello?" Her voice shook. "We got them," Davis said, and Tiffany could hear the exhaustion and relief in her tone. "They're alive. Rebecca's pretty banged up, but Lily's unharmed." Tiffany's knees gave out. She slid to the floor, pressing a hand over her mouth to stifle a sob. "Thank you," she whispered. "Oh God, thank you." Jake came running into the kitchen, his eyes wide. "Mom? Why are you crying?" She pulled him into her arms, holding him so tight he squirmed. "Happy tears, baby. Happy tears." At the hospital, Tiffany paced the waiting room, Jake swinging his legs in a chair beside her. When the doors finally opened, Detective Davis walked in, followed by a nurse pushing a wheelchair. Rebecca Watson sat in it, her face bruised, one arm in a sling. But her eyes were clear, and in her lap, Lily. The little girl was tucked against her mother, her small fingers clutching Rebecca's hospital gown. She looked up when Tiffany approached, her big eyes wary. Tiffany knelt slowly, so she wouldn't tower over her. "Hi, Lily," she said softly. "I'm Jake's mom." Lily didn't speak, but she nodded slightly. Rebecca reached out with her good hand, tears spilling down her cheeks. "You're the one who found the note." Tiffany took her hand, her own eyes burning. "I'm just glad you're both safe." Then Rebecca did something Tiffany didn't expect. She leaned forward and hugged her, clinging like Tiffany was the only thing keeping her grounded. Tiffany hugged her back just as tightly. Over Rebecca's shoulder, she saw Jake watching Lily with curious eyes. "Are you okay?" he asked her bluntly. Lily hesitated, then nodded again. Jake grinned. "Good. Want to see my dinosaur?" He dug in his pocket and pulled out a tiny plastic T-Rex. For the first time, Lily almost smiled. Later, as they walked to the car, Jake swung Tiffany's hand. "Is Lily going to be okay now?" Tiffany squeezed his fingers. "Yes, baby. She's with her mom, and the bad man can't hurt them anymore." Jake was quiet for a minute. Then, "Good, 'cause nobody should hurt kids." Tiffany's heart swelled. She stopped and crouched to his level. "You're right. And when we see someone who needs help, we do what we can. Just like you did with Lily's note." Jake puffed out his chest. "I helped." "You did." She kissed his forehead. "I'm so proud of you." In the weeks that followed, Rebecca and Lily moved into a shelter for families escaping abuse. Tiffany visited often, bringing toys for Lily and coffee for Rebecca. One afternoon, as the kids played in the shelter's garden, Rebecca turned to Tiffany. "I don't know how to thank you," she said quietly. Tiffany shook her head. "You don't have to." Rebecca looked at Lily, who was giggling as Jake pretended his dinosaur was chasing her. She hasn't had a lot of happy days, but she's starting to laugh again. Tiffany smiled. "So are you?" And it was true. Rebecca's face, though still bearing faint bruises, looked lighter, hopeful. That night, as Tiffany tucked Jake into bed, he yawned. "Mom, can Lily come play sometime?" "Of course," Tiffany said, smoothing his hair. "Good." He closed his eyes. "'Cause she needs friends." Tiffany sat there for a long moment, watching him sleep. Then she whispered, Yeah, baby. She does. And so do we all, she thought. Because in the end, that's what had saved them. People looking out for each other. One crumpled note, one mother who listened, and a little boy who helped without even knowing it. She turned off the light, leaving the door cracked just the way Jake liked it. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. And let us know in the comments where in the world you are watching from. We love hearing from all of you. Thanks for watching.